Hello, Facebook Live. I am here with Mr. James Smith of 211.
Good morning, everybody.
How are you guys doing? If you're on, please comment below. It is Wednesday?
Thursday.
Oh my gosh, it's Thursday.
Yeah.
How's everybody faring with this Hurricane Jazz? We hope everybody is being safe and prepared.
Yes, get prepared now. Even though it's still 1,000 miles away, be prepared now. Go get all your stuff and just get ready.
Yes, absolutely. And if you guys are like, I don't even just know what to get, there's so many lists on the internet. Just kind of go and see. We have a whole bunch of stuff on the 211 website as well as the Leon County app. There's a Leon County app that you can download, and that kind of gives you all of the information. The city of Tallahassee, everybody is being extremely responsive, so just stay up to date with that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So today we are here talking mental health talk with James. He is the director of Hotline programs here at 211. He is also a licensed
clinical social worker.
So he knows all the ins and outs when it comes to mental health. First of all, James, did you go to the Bluebird walk this weekend? Can you tell us how that went?
So this past weekend, NAMI Tallahassee, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, the chapter in Tallahassee, did their Brookie Bee Run for suicide prevention awareness. And it was fantastic. It was a glorious day. It was beautiful.
I love it.
And there were probably 300 to 400 people there wearing their blue shirts and showing their support for suicide prevention and awareness. I think we got to go that way for when people,
Sorry if you're on. Hi, guys. We love the thumbs ups and the hearts. If you guys know this man, please give him some hearts and thumbs ups.
Yes.
Sorry, we're talking about the Bluebird Run.
So it was beautiful. The walk was great because it was under a canopy trail, so it was nice and cool.
Where was it again?
It was out at the J.R. Alford Greenway.
Ah, gorgeous.
And so apparently the run was really hot. I didn't do the run, I did the walk, but it was a great time, so we all had fun.
Really neat. And what was this for again?
It was for suicide awareness and prevention.
Nice. And I heard there was something like 400 or 500 people out there?
Yeah, I think there were about
really
300 or 400 registered runners.
Wow.
So, yeah.
How awesome.
Yes.
And that was for a local...
Yeah, that was for NAMI Tallahassee.
Okay. What's that stand for?
The National Alliance of Mental Illness, the Tallahassee chapter. So it's a national organization that provides mental health assistance for families who have individuals with some type of mental health
Great.
issue.
I hear they do a lot of awesome work here in town and nationally.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Mental health talk here. James Smith with 211 Big Ben, your region's go-to hotline. Today we're going to talk about some of the risk factors and warning signs of suicide. And before we jump into that, just to kind of give you guys an idea of the calls that we receive here at 211, the most common call is mental health related. And we actually every year do a annual snapshot, and this is going to be backwards for you guys. I appreciate that. I'm sorry because I don't know how to turn it around. But if you see right there in that graph, it says most common calls, and number 1 is anxiety, depression, loneliness, and stress. And those are, gosh, over 3,500 this past year. So that equates to a lot in any given month. So let's talk on some of the risk factors that you have for suicide. What's probably the number 1 or top 3?
Well, the thing to remember also about suicide is that suicide is a very individualized thing. So what causes one person stress or grief or depression may not necessarily cause that for somebody else.
Okay.
It's kind of like a crisis. So crisis is self-defined. So what may be a crisis for me may not necessarily be a crisis for you. So the fact that I couldn't work out last week was a crisis for me because I wanted to work out, whereas for you it may not be that big of a deal. Or something or something more particular like being at risk for losing your house or being evicted. Those could be potential crises for individuals. So obviously one of the biggest risk factors is depression or some type of mental illness. Whenever an individual is struggling with those types of things, and especially not receiving assistance for that particular type of mental illness, that is a definite risk factor.
Okay, wow. So you're saying that mental health plays a big role in risk factors. What are some other interesting stuff? How about maybe like environment type of stuff?
Absolutely. So, life events, things that happen. So we kind of talked about this a little bit last week as well, when we were talking about the statistics of individuals, 18 to 35 who are at a high risk of, or one of the leading causes of their deaths is suicide. That could be the life event of going away from home for the first time, trying to find a job for the first time, establishing yourself at your job, getting married, having kids, things like that. For the midlife crisis, people struggle with those types of things. It could also be, trying to identify yourself sexually as well. So, again, all of these different types of issues that people go throughout their life, life events definitely are a contributing factor as well.
For sure. And if anybody is feeling the stress, perhaps, of any of these events, what could they do?
Obviously, counseling is a huge opportunity to be able to talk through these things. So, if you call a local 211, they will offer short-term crisis counseling. So they'll talk to you to get you through to a safe part of this moment. They're going to get you to a safer location for the day, for the next day. And then they'll also talk with you about finding a long-term counselor, someone who you can go to over and over again and be able to openly talk about the situations that are going on in your life.
Right, and I know we had touched on this before too, but bullying and different, maybe that's another environmental factor, I guess, so to
absolutely.
speak. If that's happening, reach out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Reach out, and the longer you're exposed to a certain life event as well. So if you're being bullied day in, day out at school, those can definitely cause mental anguish and things like that too. So.
And how do firearms play into that?
Well, any access to lethal means. So obviously, if there's a firearm in the house and people know where the firearm is located, you definitely want to try and make sure that firearm is locked in some way, shape, or form, or that bullets are separated so that they're not, fully loaded. And it's important to remember, even if you think that a firearm is not loaded, it's a loaded weapon. It can hurt you. So always be careful around any type of firearm. Also, access to lethal means could be access to the ability to cut yourself. So knives, razors, any type of medication could cause medication overload. Access to a car.
Lock up all the. How do you help prevent that?
Well, the part of that is also being aware of individuals and what their suicide lethality is. Okay. So if you happen to know that an individual is thinking of something, part of what we talked about last week was be the one to ask. Be the one to, just ask somebody, are you feeling suicidal? And going beyond that, if you are suicidal, do you have a plan? If you ask somebody what their plan is, it's not going to, again, put into their mind to come up with a plan. They usually will already have a plan in place. So knowing what their plan is will help you to identify the type of lethal means that they're going to try to access.
Wow, James touched on an excellent point. We're here today talking about risk factors of suicide. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. And he said, be the one to ask. That's a huge hashtag going around. Actually do it. Like he just said, if somebody has a plan already, you're not going to put it into their brain. So ask. Awesome point. Thank you for touching on that. What's another risk factor?
So historical factors as well. So if an individual has had previous attempts, they're at a higher likelihood of trying to attempt again. And also family history of suicide as well. So if there is a family history, then those family members, the survivors, are at a higher risk as well because of guilt factors or numerous other things that family member may be going through. Also, there's been genetic studies that show that behaviors such as suicide are actually linked. So there is information out there. So if you know someone who has had a suicide attempt in the past, then definitely be on the lookout for them and be the one to ask again.
Awesome. Thank you for those risk factors.
Absolutely.
Now we're going to move into some warning signs. If you guys maybe know somebody or you yourself are having some of these, we just kind of want to point them out so that you guys are a little bit more aware. James, what would you say are some of the risk factors that or warning signs, sorry?
Absolutely. So I don't know if there's such a term as a favorite suicide prevention person out there, but I guess my favorite suicide prevention person is Dr. Thomas Joyner, who's actually on faculty at FSU. Go Knowles.
Can you spell that last name in case they want to look him up or something, maybe?
I believe it's Joyner or Joiner,
Okay.
but I think
and we'll put that in the comments below.
Absolutely.
So,
So Dr. Joyner has done lots of research over the last several years. And his biggest thing is a 3-part risk factor. So the initial thing is getting your mind wrapped around the idea of a fearlessness to death. So when you initially think of death and dying and even the act of suicide, most people have a fear towards that. Most people have a fear of dying and fear of moving on. So, and the human brain is actually geared towards living. So even for individuals who get to this point of a fearlessness of dying, at some point when they get to the point of the attempt, their brain is trying to tell them, no, this isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. So there's sometimes that just initial act, that thought of maybe I should call somebody, maybe I should talk to somebody.
and at that point, do it. Call,
Absolutely. Yes. Please call.
211, 3 numbers.
A lot of times people feel that they're a burden to others or that they're a burden to themselves as well. So just that idea that I'm a burden and I'm bringing other people down is often a major idea for individuals who are considering suicide. And then an isolation or alienation, that they're the only people or the only person going through what they're going through. And oftentimes they have the misguided and idea that my death will be worth more than my life to others. So for a suicidal individual, that makes sense to them, that my death is going to help people more than my continued living. And so for you and I, who are usually not, I'm not suicidal, and so for a non-suicidal brain, that doesn't make sense. But for the individual who is going through suicide, that's going through mental health issues, that's going through depression on a day in, day out basis, the struggle, the pain is often what causes them to begin to start contemplating and to really start thinking about that fearlessness to death. And so oftentimes the person who is suicidal doesn't actually want to die. They want the pain to stop.
Gotcha.
Because they're in so much emotional pain, physical. Sometimes it's physical pain, but oftentimes it's a physical pain or an emotional pain that even through talking to people through short-term intervention or long-term counseling, they struggle with. So if you're struggling with these ideas and you haven't found that right counselor, start looking for additional counselors. There is somebody out there that would be able to talk to you, that is willing to talk to you and be that one to help you get through whatever it is that you're going through.
And what is something that you would say to somebody who might be having those thoughts of, I'm a burden to my friends or family? What's something that you would say right now to give them a little bit of hope?
Well, oftentimes it does take that very special person to be able to make that direct connection. And so even if you're going through, if you're in the river, if you're, feeling like you're under the pressure of thinking of killing yourself, there are people out there that do care about you. And I know that it doesn't seem like that right now, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. It's a serious topic, so
Yeah.
please just pick up the phone. Like he said, your brain wants to do that. So listen to it. Pick it up. We're here, 211. There's a bunch of other numbers out there, but that's really easy to remember. Are there any other warning signs that you can think of for other people to be aware of? Maybe behavior changes, mood changes?
Absolutely. So people who are starting to talk about not wanting to be here anymore, using the colloquialisms. You know, I'm gonna talk to the end of the barrel. I'm gonna, you know, flush my life down the toilet or something like that. Those types of words without saying I want to kill myself, but what they're meaning, they're wanting to kill themselves. That's when you ask. That's when you be the one to ask. If someone says, you know, I just don't feel like it anymore, are you talking about killing yourself? And if they are, be there for them. Give them 211. Give them the National Suicide Lifeline Prevention Hotline. You know, and just talk with them and be there for them.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. That is a wealth of information. And if you are just tuning in, please, we will post this recording. Go listen to it so you guys can know the risk factors and warning signs of suicide and be able to help somebody. You can be the one to make a difference. Help somebody, help yourself, like he said. Guys, we're here for you too. So just dial 211.
Absolutely, and look for those invitations or warning signs for the people who you view after they've died by suicide, that it was kind of out of the blue. If you think about it, how many people openly talk about the issues that they're going through? We've kind of talked about this in our previous talks as well. How many people actually talk about their depression?
They don't.
They don't. So if you see that people are giving away their collectibles, their valued possessions, giving away pets, things like that, you know, be the one to ask. You know, I see you doing these types of things. Are you thinking about killing yourself? And is there anything that I can do to help you today? Because again, we want to make sure that individuals who are thinking of suicide are safe for the day, and then we can look for a long-term plan to help them throughout their illness.
Would you say it's pretty common that people make these maybe sly remarks? Somebody doesn't actually follow up with a question, like, are you actually thinking about it? And so they say, well, they made hints about it, but I never took them seriously. Would you say that's pretty common? I
don't know that it's necessarily common. I would say that oftentimes people are afraid to ask because there's obviously the stigma of, well, I don't want to put that idea into their mind. You're not going to put that idea into their mind. If they're already making those statements, they've already come to a clear idea of suicide as an option. They're starting to feel isolated. They're reaching out. So oftentimes when people make those statements, they are trying to reach out. They are trying to say, I'm drowning here and I need your help. So rather than be afraid, be that person to reach out and say, I'm here for you. Are you thinking of this?
Great. Thank you. I think that's the number one takeaway, is to ask. Be the one to ask. Okay? If it's already in their head, they've already thought about it, you can still ask. So I appreciate that. I didn't know that. That makes sense. You guys, September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. You can be an advocate simply by sharing this video and getting the word out. So please share, pass the word on. Let's get people talking about it.
Absolutely.
So we can stop suicide. Okay? Again, Stacy and James here with 211 Big Ben, your region's go-to hotline. You guys, with help comes hope. You are worth it. You are worth your life. Please remember that. Until next time, we'll see you guys.
Have a great one.